Penny Muse Abernathy, the Knight Chair in Journalism and Digital Media Economics at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Congratulations on your new report. I mean, every year that it comes out, it's got interesting material, but I thought this year's was really stunning because of how timely it is and it's always thorough, but it's really timely this year. What were some of the big findings that, came out of it?
Well, it's kind of interesting how it evolved. I had thought that it would be a good time to do a 15-year retrospective because that's how long we've been tracking what has been happening. And as it just so happened, the end of the 15-year came at the end of 2019. And then, of course, the coronavirus came in the first quarter and began to change everything very quickly. So I decided as we were putting it together, we really needed to do two things. We needed to say what had happened over 15 years, and then also say, we can't know exactly where we're going to end up whenever the coronavirus lifts and the economy returns halfway to normal. So we need to say, what is it that are really the challenges and the issues going forward? And so I kind of look at it as a report that looks back over 15 years and then looks ahead over 15 years for what the important issues and opportunities are that lie ahead for us.
What are your worst fears for the media ecosystems across the country?
Well, let's think about the media ecosystem in terms of three layers. So at the very top are the national newspapers, and there are about 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how you define them, right? Obviously, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal are there. I would say increasingly the Washington Post is there. LA Times could be one, too. Then you have a whole different level right below that of about 157 to 180 daily, what I call regional newspapers. They're either metro or statewide newspapers. And they do something quite different from what you get lower down, which is the 5,500 newspapers, which are the local newspapers. And they are usually the small weeklies and small dailies that you have in any community that you used to live in, right? Usually had some form of a local newspaper, which was the prime, if not the sole source of really local news.
In your report, you also talk about some of the startup organizations that have tried to fill in those holes. Yes. And I think the thing that at first I was surprised that they're not from your report, but just surprised from watching the media landscape that there were so many media outlets out there like that. But it seems like what we've discovered in the pandemic is that they're especially fragile. We're seeing some of them that are really struggling at this point.
Well, and what we did in this report too, each year we try to add a different type of news outlet into it. We added 2 this year. Previously, we had added in independent digital sites. And I think many people thought independent digital sites were going to be the salvation. Mm-hmm. If a newspaper closed, they would move in with much less of a cost structure, and it would be all about journalists doing these stories and then getting them published for not having to worry about the cost of a press. What mm-hmm. we found over the last 5 years, especially, is that it's pretty tenuous. You usually have only a handful of reporters on digital sites, these independent digital sites, and most of them are very passionate journalists, but they spend 80 hours a week covering the community and don't have another 80 hours to go out and build a business model. So as a result, most of them, too, have been located in metro areas where you also might have already very suitable media options, like the local regional television station may in fact be doing it. The regional newspaper may in fact, but they're located in metro areas because that's where the sourcing is for funds, right? Whether you're nonprofit or profit.
What do you recommend that people do to support local journalism? What needs to happen to prevent the collapse that is potentially on the horizon?
Well, I think one of the things that has been most concerning to me was the survey that Pew Research Center did last year that found that 75% of people they surveyed were not aware that local news organizations had any financial difficulty whatsoever. Even more concerning was less than 15% had even bothered to pay a subscription or membership for any sort of news local news that they received. So one of the things that I think has been beneficial about the coronavirus is it has gotten people to understand when you lose local news, you lose something very, very important. And that is the ability to get the information to just make everyday decisions that can affect the quality of your life today as well into the future. So I think there's a growing recognition. I've also been heartened that at least after several years of just a lack of interest, there are several policies and bills before Congress right now that begin to try to address this. Many of them, some of which have bipartisan support, and it'll be interesting to see where those go in the next session of Congress. My problem with all of this is we need to kind of back up, and we need to say, if you're an individual, what can you do to support this? And the first thing you can do is actually financially support a good local news organization.
We're giving away $20,000 again this year, and actually hoping to give away a little bit more for second and third place prizes as well. Right. What advice do you have for people that might be thinking about applying for this?
Part of the way to start is, what are those issues and how well are they being covered in your community, in your state? What is it you can do to kind of craft news that has been lost from the news ecosystem and really shape the debate about public policy issues that are going to make the quality of life of people in a community or in a state have a better quality of life. And then I think the other thing, too, to think about is, what are the marginalized communities? What are the overlooked communities that have been bypassed by both the digital age and by the information age?